بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, today we're going to discuss another aspect of Tafsir al-Quran. We have so far done two lessons on Tafsir. One is Introduction to Tafsir. The other is the evolution of the Tafsir. And I hope you've made the diagram on the evolution of Tafsir as well. And yes, I hope you all are safe and keeping yourself healthy. May Allah protect us all and keep us under His protection. So, dear students, listeners, and viewers, let's talk about the tafsir of the Holy Quran. The how and what are the different sources of the Holy Quran. So this what are we remember we're looking at tafsir, which means explanation to interpret, and we are going to look at what are those different sources. By using those sources, how we are able to explain the Quran, how we are able to interpret the Quran. So that's something we're going to be looking at today, inshallah. Right, let's look at the first thing, the Quran. Okay, what you saying that the Quran is used as a source to explain the Quran? Yes, very right. There are occasions, and there are many occasions, and in fact, this is the highest form of tafsir, based on the belief that the Quran is the word of Allah, revealed in Arabic by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and authoritative when it explains itself. And so what it means is that the Quran is on many occasions is gonna be explaining some another verse somewhere else in the Quran. And we often see it. And this is the most authentic source of interpreting the Quran. The question arises, why? The reason being because the verses of the Quran are from the Quran. And Quran is the book of Allah, the divine revelation, which Allah Himself has promised that He will protect it. So therefore, the verses which are used to explain other verses of the Quran is the best source for explaining, interpreting the verses of the Quran. Then the second source, the hadith or the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. The whole life of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam is a practical demonstration for us. So when we look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when we look at the sunnah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are we looking at? We are looking at practical demonstration of the Quran. So that's the second source. And then when we study seerah, that is the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are many hadiths or traditions that contain much of the tafsir, meaning the words itself are explaining a particular verse of the Quran. So these are often marked as the meaning of the Quranic verses in almost all major collections of the hadith. Whenever there is Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim, you open them, you'll find a chapter about or a bab which talks about the tafsir of the Quran, the tafsir of the surahs, and all that. And you can find that, and this is one of the highest forms of tafsir as well. Moving on to another source, which is known as Athar or reports of the Sahaba. Athar or reports of the Sahaba. What is that? You see, we know that the Sahaba Kiram were taught by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam trained them in such a way that they can pass it on to others. In fact, Rasulullah in his life used to send the companions, the Sahaba, to other places. Right? So they were practically trained by the Prophet ﷺ to teach others. So this was a common practice of Rasulullah ﷺ, passing on the knowledge, testing. Right? Are they doing it right? So this was the Sahaba, Ridwanullah Ajma'een, who interpreted, who taught the Quran in the absence, when there is the Quranic explanation is not very clear, or there is no authentic hadith there, then the consensus of the companions will be helpful in interpreting a certain verse. Let me explain again. So there are chances that there is a verse of the Quran which is, somebody asked a question regarding that, and there is no clear instruction in the Quran regarding that verse, and there is no Sahih hadith or authentic hadith regarding that verse in the Hadith Mubarak. So what happens then? We look at the Athar or the reports of the companions. What did the companions said about it? So if the companions have agreed on a certain interpretation, so it is mandatory upon us that we follow it. Then the Tabi'een. Before I move on and explain you, can you think, or who are Tabi'een? Very right. Tabi'een are those people who are the students of Sahaba Kiram, the companions. And they grew up, they developed, they learned in the companionship of the Sahaba Kiram, of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these new generation was prepared by the Sahaba to explain to others. Like the Sahaba were trained by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was Tabi'een's. So Tabi'een's explanation, what they learned from the Sahaba. So in light of that knowledge, they used to interpret the verses of the Quran. The fifth one is reason. Right? This is something which is very common nowadays in the current century, or 150, 200 years ago. There is a lot of emphasis of the knowledge the humankind is evolving through or going through, reasoning, rationale. What is it about? This is a qualified, I repeat, a qualified scholar, personal reasoning that he deducts through logic and personal evaluation of arguments, through logic and through arguments. He's going to derive his reason, and then he's going to interpret the verse or the verses of the Quran, right, in light of the other four sources: Quran, Hadith, Athar, Tabi'een's explanation. In light of these four, if someone tries to do that by not considering these four, the chances are he'll make errors, he'll make mistakes. This type of tafasir are not much in number, but those people who tried, they because it's a critical work, so they it is bound to be criticized or looked at through by other scholars critically. So critically this work. So there is work there on this source, and but not much. Majority is actually under these four categories. So these were the some of the sources of the Holy Quran we studied today. Please, my humble suggestion to you, I'll enlarge the screen so that you can see it better. Please go through these sources of the Tafseer al-Quran. These are the first two sources, that is the Quran and Sunnah or the Hadith. Right, students, hope that you have learned something about the sources of the Holy Quran today. And if you don't understand anything, no problem. Just write down your question in the comment section of this video. I will answer that, inshallah ta'ala. Take good care of yourself and also the people around you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to take care of the people around us and also those who are taking care of us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.